and get things started. We missed a couple turns. Perfect. All right. I mean, this is gonna be a long match anyway. All right. So
well, Daniel cast a spell on turn 2, so
impossible. All right. It's the open of the sea. It doesn't count. Anyway, so to kind of finish that up before we get deep into this game, so both players just hit land drops and maybe cast some cheap cantrips, whatever they have. The Yorion deck having the same number of hard counters means that like you were saying, it effectively has quite a few less.
Right. Yeah, in terms of the ratios.
In terms of the ratio, yeah. But it does have one extra big threat in the form of Yorion.
Yeah, which definitely does come up. Daniel does have the Omen of the Sea, so if you can imagine 1 or 2 of those in play is able to resolve a Yorion. That's just a massive flow of cards. And we've already seen the Field of Ruin here. Field of Ruin taking out Castle Vantress, which I believe there was only 1 copy of that. Yeah, 1 copy of Castle Vantress in Sean's deck. So that is now off the table for the remainder of the remainder of this game, I should say. And that's a pretty big one. That, if both players are doing nothing, Castle Vantress is a really good way to fix your draw step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Omen of the Sea here, which is only present in Daniel's deck, is going to give, the sacrifice half of that. I mean, that is going to matter when this game goes long here. Memory Deluge resolves for Sean. And then discards. What just happened? Hold on. So, okay, that was flow the mana off of the Field of Ruin. Use it to cast Memory Deluge, and then don't not necessarily miss the land drop, but it was during end step. That's what it was.
Interesting. So actually giving Daniel a window here to jam Wandering Emperor if he chooses to.
Mm-hmm. But if Daniel does, then Sean has the same opportunity. So who's pulling ahead on that? Anyway, Memory Deluge is the choice for Daniel here, and now, yeah. So Sean, like you said, Sean does have the opportunity to drop Wandering Emperor. Although then Daniel reaching 5 mana could drop Teferi. And instead,
both players just tapping out on turn 3 and turn 4. What's going on, Joe?
Yeah, they're like
what we expected.
We're heard you guys counting up counters as like valuable cards, but we disagree. So we're just gonna tap out every turn. How else do you think we're gonna finish 9 games in time?
Oh yeah, it's 9 games now. I forgot. Best of 9. The blue-white grudge match. Who is the best blue-white control player? Okay, didn't name phase it, but we're going for an end of turn.
Yeah, put Daniel to the test. Do you have 2 counters? Because Sean has Teferi. Oh, tap land.
Tap land, though. And I would imagine, I was going to say from Sean's perspective, I wonder, you probably would just jam the Teferi there, right? Maybe.
I mean, you don't want to turn on those make disappears either. So maybe untap land there. Maybe you hesitate. I'm not sure. Maybe you just jam it through and try and pick up the game on the draw there. If we haven't mentioned it during this match, but these 2 players were both undefeated in the Swiss, so both blue controls impressive on the day.
And Daniel, just a quick development here. Daniel did play a Castle Ardenvale, so that is something that could look towards, but there is a Field of Ruin, and I would imagine Daniel does not want to just make a token now because it goes shields down.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we would still have 2 mana left over for a Veto.
Yeah, so a make disappear with a token isn't really too bad.
Yeah, like it. Emphatically slams down the land, says, I'm going to make my token. And still is going to have 2 mana available on Sean's turn here. Yes, maybe the awkward part is you have to get a plains because you only have 2 other white sources. But yeah, you definitely want to be able to hold up Veto here, or at least represent it even if you don't have it. So does make sense for Daniel here.
All right, so at some point we'll exhaust the Field of Ruins, and then there won't be any more shuffling.
So we got one each, right? Yeah, 1 each. So far.
Sean has at least 3 planeswalkers in hand here, which is I mean, those are great, but you do want to hit. I mean, the most important thing is to hit like your first 10, 12 land drops.
At least, yeah.
And nobody's missed yet.
Well, there's the clock. The clock has now been established. We're only going to be here for 20 more turns, right?
We can hope. I don't know. The Hall of Storm Giants might have something to say about that eventually. Here is Memory Deluge. We don't even have accidental encounters, so these are going to be live on Flashback, even if they do get countered. And like, how do you even counter these? If you can't, is a Make Disappear worth firing off here? Is an Absorb?
Wow, about an Absorb.
Wow,
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's a real commitment there.
Maybe senses a bit of weakness from Sean's hand. And I don't know if I saw a land in Sean's hand. There is no land. We're going to jam Teferi. This is, wow. This is
okay.
This is a turn of events.
Yes, indeed. Now, if Daniel has a follow-up here, if he has a Planeswalker, especially Teferi, it's going to land, and that's...
I think he does.
Yeah, it looks like it. Wow. Okay, so Sean was going to miss a land drop and decided to take a risk there and has been soundly punished for it.
Now, to be fair, from Sean's perspective, I kind of agree with him jamming there, because missing land drops in the control mirrors, like, I'm not going to say it's a death sentence, but it's really bad to miss a land drop in a matchup like this. So, and his hand is kind of clunked up on a bunch of Planeswalkers anyway, so felt like he was kind of okay jamming there.
Yeah, but it's missing land. It's I mean, you don't want to fall too far behind, but you can still defend. The thing is, you can't play offense and defense at the same time if you miss some early drops. You can still play defense though. Now that depends on the contents of his hand. We know there was several Planeswalkers. If he didn't have any counters, then it makes sense for him to play the way he did. And there's another. Let's see, that Teferi doesn't make it in. Daniels is still in play. I mean, the ultimate sure wins the game, as we saw earlier today, but really it's just the flow of cards is so meaningful.
Right, and if we go back to Sean Gallagher's list, we looked at, Daniel's list has copies of Leyline Binding. That's additional removal spells that you get by playing 80 cards. But if you look at Sean's list, there's not really anything here that can just straight up kill Teferi. There's nothing here, with the exception of your own Teferi tucking. Outside of that, there's nothing here. I mean, you could pressure with Hall, I guess, but yeah, Sean's in a tough spot here. Otawara to bounce, maybe.
Yeah, and
we're done.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
did not think that was gonna happen.
Yeah, Sean Gallagher holding only a couple absorbs, I think, at the end there, and unable to deal with the Teferi that had already landed. And Daniel Weiser beats the odds and wins the first game in under an hour and a half. Okay, players
8 more to go, Joe.
Exchange deck lists, and we'll bring this back up again too. And the players are kind of in good mood, good mindset too. Passing some humor back and forth. They're just kind of both amazed, like, oh, was there a betting line on the time of this match? Because we just suckered them all. Anyway.
Well, Joe, I may or may not have a stopwatch going to time the match. But anyways, let's get the deck list.
All right. So Sean Gallagher's Blue-White Control. This is the non-Yorion version. And down a game. So what do we find that we don't want? Well, we got some temporary lockdowns that seem dreadful. Supreme Verdicts. Maybe we keep some of those, and maybe even March. Maybe Make Disappear. I don't know. Let's take a look at what comes in. What do you like?
So yeah, that's the most important part. How many cards do we want? So we ideally want the Hullbreaker Horror, Elspeth Sun's Champion, Dovin's Veto, Fateful Absence, Test of Talents. That's 5. 2 Dispute is 7, and then past that, you could, I guess, Baneslayer is a threat, but it's pretty bad. So if we're talking 7 cards you actively want versus 3 Verdict, 3 Lockdown, and maybe 1 March, 7 for 7, keep in the second March, call it a day? Possibly,
yeah. That leaves you a little light on, board control, but again, that may not be necessary. Let's go ahead and look at Daniel's deck. And does Daniel's deck have the Sharks? Because that could kind of disrupt the, there we go. Daniel Weiser's.
There's 4 of them.
Yeah, there's 4 of them? No, there aren't.
Yeah, there's 4. All 4 Sharks. You meant
sorry,
not Shark Typhoon. Okay, my bad.
Okay. So, but that's worth pointing out too. The number of Shark Typhoons in total. Sean has 2, and in the 95, Daniel has 4. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, Sean has 2, Daniel has 4. So as far as Daniel's sideboard, the Chrome Host Seed Sharks you mentioned, those are great. Give me the Hullbreaker Horror is good, the Dovin's Veto, the 2 Mystical Disputes, and maybe you could talk me into a spicy one here, potentially a Denic, just as an early creature that you can get under cheap counter magic, could be potentially good. And then as far as Daniel's cutting, I mean, most of the same stuff, cutting the verdicts, cutting the lockdowns, and mostly wants to keep maybe Trim a March, maybe not. But yeah, they're mostly going to be doing a lot of the same sideboarding.
Yeah, they are. But I think it's harder for Sean because he has the Chrome Host Seed Sharks to deal with. So Sean is maybe incentivized to leave in some actual board control, whereas Daniel may not need any, which I think gives Daniel an advantage.
Yeah, unless you expect like this weird scenario where you think Sean's going to bring in the Baneslayer Angel, but I can't imagine that's the case.
Yeah, even then, it's not like that sneaking under counter magic. So
yeah,
and it can be still trumped by. I mean, a big shark can still handle it anyway. Even Wandering Emperor. Yeah, this is gonna be tough. I feel like Daniel's up a game, and I like his side of it better after boarding.
Yeah, we initially talked about the subtle differences in the deck list. Obviously, the elephant in the room is the fact that Daniel's playing 80 and has a companion versus Sean doesn't, who doesn't. And then we mentioned that Sean has a higher density of hard counters because they both have 7, but Daniel has 80 cards and Sean has 60.
Mm-hmm.
But just that game. I mean, it was just that one spot where Sean missed a single land drop. Felt like he was gonna fall far enough behind, decided to jam, and then didn't work out. And I think that is a lot of it is just you need to hit every single land drop in this matchup.
Yeah, and combined with that, I mean, you need to leave. If you can't handle the threats when they land, you got to make sure you keep them off the board. You can't. I mean, he took a risk there, and his hand wasn't good, so it's understandable. And we saw what happened. But obviously, you want to try and avoid something like that. All right, are the players ready for game number 2? All right, they are presenting. Okay, so I guess it takes Daniel a little longer to shuffle. That's fair, as his deck is a little bit bigger.
It's like it's also double sleeved. I used to play Yorion decks. I haven't played in a while, but I double sleeved the Yorion deck once, and I gotta say, Joe, never again.
Yeah, boy, this was several years ago. There was a player who was playing. There was triple sleeved. I think the only time I've ever run in triple sleeves was against this one player who I played a couple times over a span of a few years. I mean, triple sleeve is it was like inner, regular, and then like hard cases or something on top of them. And it was but it was something else. I did not enjoy shuffling that. Or I didn't even really shuffle it very well, because how could you?
By any chance, was that the taking turns guy? Daniel Wong, I think.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. Yeah. I borrowed a deck from Becky Bell a few months ago, and it had decorative outer sleeves, which is not something I'd ever even heard of before. Okay. But of course, it wasn't. It was only on it was only on the wish targets in the sideboard, so that I took those off before playing. I'm just not. Yeah.
Not that kind of guy.
I'm not that cool. I'm not cool enough to do that kind of thing. All right, game underway. Land drops being made. Spells not being cast.
See, this is what we were expecting. Is that a cycle Shark Typhoon?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh boy. You know what that means, Joe? I would assume that there's maybe not a land in Daniel's hand.
I mean, there's one. Okay, because if you have 3 land, are you cycling on turn 2 or on turn 3? You're probably doing on turn 3, right? You're not getting punished by anything.
Well, I would just hold a turn, because if you draw a land, then you could just keep waiting, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So he must. Yeah. So he likely doesn't have anything, and so maybe Daniel is at risk of losing a land drop every turn here, or maybe not,
or not, or we're just wrong.
I mean, I suppose that's possible.
Yeah. So Daniel can potentially float mana off castle, get the land, and then, yeah, I guess you could just cast the Deluge now and still get a mana to hold up Dispute to make Sean not be able to go for Teferi. We'll have to see if that's where Daniel wants to go. I can't tell if there's a dispute or what you call it. What did I just say? Memory Deluge. I can't tell if that's in Daniel's hand, but
I mean, Wandering Emperor would work too, as long as there's the dispute to protect is really the big thing, because Sean will be going up to 5 mana, and obviously we can't let Teferi land unopposed.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because Daniel does have access to Leyline Binding. So if you're from
right.
in Daniel's perspective, because Daniel has that card and Sean doesn't, Daniel can actually let a Teferi resolve and just take his lumps and say, okay, I'm fine with the 2-for-1. You know what I mean? And Sean doesn't really have that luxury.
Yeah.
Although binding would still cost a lot of mana here, so
yeah.
I wonder how many Triumphs are in Daniel's deck. I think it's just a couple of. This looks like 6 total, 2 of each, 2 Rafines, 2 Spars, 2 Rogrins. So,
that's a real commitment to it. But I guess it makes sense. I mean, you're playing this many cards, you can absorb the. Yeah. Okay. So Daniel did have the Wandering Emperor, and it presumably does not have Dispute because it didn't run that earlier. It does get vetoed here. All right, and the lands are flowing. So yeah, I guess Daniel does have plenty of lands.
Other player missing land drops this game.
All right. Well, I think.
Well,
yeah, I think Sean's ready to pass here.
See if Daniel maybe wants to deploy a Wandering Emperor and potentially could even have Mystical Dispute backup here. I'm gonna go Shark for 3. Okay. It's not a bad place to start, but to get the pressure on, force Sean to, do something that he doesn't want to do.
We both made it to 5, and then missed.
Interesting. I wonder from Daniel's perspective. So you saw the Deluges in the previous game. They didn't really get fought over that much. But with Sean missing land drop, I wonder if you're interested in fighting over this.
I don't know. If Sean missing a land drop, obviously his hand is all spells, so you don't want to increase the chance of you getting stuck here. I mean, so absorbs offline for Daniel this turn because there's a Field of Ruin untapped.
Yeah, Sean's just all gas, no brakes. Yeah, just gonna keep passing. Still doesn't feel like he needs. Well, I didn't even catch a glimpse to see if there was a Teferi in hand, but also might not feel like he needs to. Maybe has some other stuff to do with this mana. Could potentially have maybe another Deluge, maybe an Emperor. Oh, the castle.
Daniel draws a castle, and Sean's just like, oh, what? Not only did you draw a land, it's a castle? Come on.
Oh, is that the second? That's the second Ardenvale, right? Because the first one got the first one got
Oh, here's a real battle here. Okay, so that was Wandering Emperor, Rewind, Dispute, Dovin's Veto, and the sum total of that is nothing.
Although I guess Daniel can't activate the castle this turn because 2 mana got tapped for the veto. Ooh, getting to cast the Deluge here is pretty big. Oh, you know what that is, Joe?
Yeah, that's a test of talents. That's a real.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, and that reveals the hand too, and the hand for Daniel does not include any counters.
It does include, however, the copy of Dream Trawler that we weren't sure was going to come in, and did decide to bring that in. But yeah, that's a really big swing for Sean. If we can stave off this Shark token and get to the later stages of the game, which may prove a little bit difficult, but if we can do that, Daniel's going to be out of Memory Deluges, and that is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, test the talents you can see there. Removes all the copies of an instant or sorcery that it counters. And Deluge is, the super, by far, I think the one you would most want to hit.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the flashback. In fact, what even is what else would you want to hit? Like Absorb? That's the only other thing that would even be relevant, right?
Yeah, there's not much else, so definitely, yeah. Big issue here for Sean here is that blue card towards the bottom of the screen, Hullbreaker Horror. That one is not counterable. And as we discussed before, Sean Gallagher does not have access to Leyline Binding, which Daniel does. So it doesn't really have a clean way to answer that Hullbreaker.
So, Daniel, there's a land here. I assume we'll just see the land and a pass. But if there isn't, then is it going to be Dream Trawler or is it going to be Wandering Emperor?
Probably just pass. Because you can hold up Emperor, you can hold up Castle, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Might even just want a Castle. He's got Sean low enough.
Yeah, Castle. Yeah, this 3/3 Shark hitting enough 3 times now. This Castle has become much more significant. Looks like 2 Vetoes, a Teferi, a Wandering Emperor, and I can't tell the card on the left in Sean's hand.
I think it's a blue card.
So Dream Trawler would have resolved there.
Unless, well, I think the last card might be a counterspell.
Oh, okay.
Can't tell. Now, it's interesting because remember, we saw Sean game 1 feel like he was pressured into tapping out that one turn. He missed the land drop to play Teferi and ended up getting punished. I wonder if this was another position where you're just like, okay, is this the turn where I just have to jam and hope that there's no counterspell off the top for Daniel? I guess that's bad into the known Emperor because you just go Emperor token kill Teferi. So, yeah, it's just like it's Sean's in a rough spot.
Yeah. So Daniel chooses to go with Wandering Emperor instead of castling here. Attacks him for 3. That does exhaust some of the mana. And there's land number 7.
That means it's tap though. So
Jawari
at least
Disruption.
no,
come on.
Yeah. At least no Hullbreaker Horror this turn.
Yeah. So do you do anything if you're Daniel? You're certainly tempted. Yeah. I mean, castling a token makes it a 2-turn clock.
He's
pick up Yorion. Okay.
Yorion, yeah.
Interesting. So that does not contribute to the clock.
Interesting. I'd have rather seen a token there, but it's pretty close.
Whoa! You saw Sean's head jerk back a little bit there.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Daniel Weiser looks pretty pleased with himself. He's like, yeah, I know I've been missing land drops, but yeah, I had 2 of these and eat it.
This is the photos taken moments before disaster.
Oh boy. So now Dream Trawler can resolve, but even though, I mean, yeah, you can't.
I just hold up the Hullbreaker, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, Sean down to 5. Okay, there's a castle. Makes a land drop. But what is this? Yeah. Daniel's just like casually tosses it on the board. You can't do anything. And so now it's just have anything to cast in response to Wandering Emperor.
Yes, Sean could have his own Hullbreaker, but yeah, any spell just bounces the Hullbreaker.
Yeah,
so
that wouldn't do it either. Daniel just needs to have. Okay, there's a Wandering Emperor. Now, if Daniel actually has nothing, then he has screwed himself. But presumably that is not the case. Yep, Omen of the Sea, bounce it.
There's a Dovin's Veto, but even if you Dovin's Veto the Omen, it doesn't matter because you can't counter the trigger. Yeah.
Yeah. He needs a stifle effect.
Nimble Obstructionist.
That would do it.
That's not the deck list, but
the 2 mana one that gets played in Lotus once in a while at the beginning. Stifle counter a legend. I can't remember the name of the card.
Tail's End.
Tail's End, that would work.
Yeah. We're thinking if we have any outs.
No, it's Dovin's Veto and
maybe a Shark Typhoon. I guess Shark Typhoon for 1 could buy you a turn.
Yeah, I suppose. Unless Daniel comes up with another spell and then just bounce the Shark. Yeah. There it is. There's the Shark. Yeah, and there's Wandering Emperor back. And Daniel Weiser is going to defeat Sean Gallagher, and he will be the champion of the Nerd Rage 10K Pioneer Showdown. Congratulations to him. Well-fought battle that came in about an hour faster than we thought it would. And, yeah, still got to kind of show off the power of these decks, and Blue White Control just, went on a tear in both decks in the finals. Wow. What do you think about that?
I mean, that was wild. Both players in the finals, like we mentioned over and over again, they did not lose an entire match all weekend until the
Mhm.
finals, where they just lost to themselves. Like, they lost the mirror match. What an amazing showing by Blue White Control. Like we talked, I think the story of the weekend was, like we were talking about earlier, no Rakdos, no Bottle Green in our top 8, with the exception of the Dykeman Rakdos sacrifice deck. But yeah, a wild tournament, and a very, congratulations to Daniel. Put on a hell of a show.
All right, so we're going to talk to Daniel live on camera here, but we're going to step away real quick and get him set up in the booth. So stick around; we'll be right back. If you aren't interested in what Daniel has to say, shame on you. But we will be back for Modern tomorrow morning at 10 Central Time. So tune in for that. In the meantime, if you just wait through the break real quick while you get situated, we'll be back and we'll talk to Daniel, our champion and our latest person to lock up an invite to the NRG Championship at the end of the year. So stick around. All right, here we are. Last time for the day with Daniel Weiser, our 10K Pioneer champion. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we have several things we want to ask you about, but so the finals, you and your opponent, neither one of you had lost on the day, both playing Blue White Control. You're playing Yorion. He is not playing Yorion. Did that, going into the finals, did you think in the mirror, is one side favored because of Yorion or disfavored because of Yorion? What are your thoughts on that?
I'd say in the blue-white mirror, whoever has a companion is favored. Like, basically, Yorion is the best companion to have, and then the Yorion decks are favored against the Kahira decks, and the Kahira decks are favored against the no companion decks. And the Yorion decks are obviously favored against the no companion decks as well.
Okay. That's interesting. And so did you, going into the finals then, I mean, we anticipated it potentially being a fairly long matchup. Did you feel that way also, or you, like, was this a surprise to you that it ended as quickly as it did?
I mean, I feel like game one could have gone on for potentially 7 more turns or something. Like, my opponent conceded at 20 life, right? So, but yeah, the games are, a lot of time, once someone starts resolving spells, they just get ahead and they get really far ahead really quickly. So as soon as someone gets that, like, first toehold of an advantage, they usually just snowball out of control.
Right, perfect. So, as far as the tournament itself, did you have any expectations going in? Did you look to, like, were you looking at top 8? Did you think that you could maybe go all the way? Do you play, a lot of Pioneer? What's the thought on that?
I have not played Pioneer in quite a while, probably like 8 months or something, and so I just found the deck and wanted to play Greg Orange's blue-white deck from the last Pioneer Pro Tour, since I said that in the earlier interview. But yeah, he's very good, and the deck was good, and I didn't know where to go. But I mostly just played this tournament to test for some friends of mine that are playing Dallas. So
Okay, so you're kind of just giving hope to the people that maybe aren't always prepared for the formats. They just show up and get a good list and play well and play solid with confidence and take it down. Yeah, impressive stuff. Now, this does some things for you. Obviously you win some money here. You also qualify for the NRG Championship at the end of the year. Is that something that's exciting, or is that kind of just another small perk? We want to hear you say you're excited about it.
yeah, that's cool. I'll definitely go. Yeah, I mean, it's cool. Yeah.
So those are usually 2 or 3 format events. If you could pick like the 2 formats for the event for yourself, what would you pick? What would you want to play?
I would probably want to play Modern and Draft.
Okay, that's interesting to hear. A lot of our players are not so favoring of limited. So if that's on there this year, maybe you'll have a bit of an edge there.
Yeah, well, they don't have limited at the NRG series, right? So
right, yeah, I mean that's why. Yeah, that's why.
So, as far as the whole tournament is concerned, Daniel, what was if there's anything that could stick out as far as a highlight play or maybe a highlight match is concerned, what would be your number one choice for that? If you can,
nothing super in particular. I feel like obviously deciding to like Dream Crush play round 8 for or round 9, whatever the last round
8,
was,
yeah.
round 8, I think, for seeding, and then which I mean, I felt a little bit mean doing that, but I don't know. I wanted to give myself the best chance to win the tournament, and the seeding mattered a lot. And then so I beat my opponent because it was a very good matchup for me, and then I immediately played him again in top 8. So that was just like a funny moment that I was not expecting, but it happened to work very much in my favor. And then I played 2 harder matchups in the top 4 in the finals, but
yeah, so
not that either of those were bad either. But
yeah, so the Spirits matchup is you feel like it's okay. It's not something you're particularly afraid of.
I think Blue-White's definitely favored on the play. On the draw, Spirits is probably a bit favored, but I think Blue-White's probably a bit favored overall. They have a really hard time dealing with some of your cards like Shark Typhoon and Supreme Verdict and the Lockdown.
Sure. So just no real hiccups throughout the day. I mean, obviously you didn't lose any matches. Were there any points where you're just like, oh, I'm kind of on the edge here, I need to get lucky, or you were just okay the whole time?
There was one game in like round 3 or 4 or something where in game 3 my opponent resolved creativity for x=1 and hit Hullbreaker Horror, and if they had hit Atraxa, I definitely would have lost, but instead they hit Hullbreaker Horror, and then I like untapped and answered it and passed and like was tapped out, and so if they had any follow-up I was dead, but they didn't have follow-up, and so I was able to get there. But that was definitely one where like, yeah, I just need them to hit the wrong target.
All right.
Well, at the end of the day, Daniel, so not only do you get a trophy, you get a little bit of money, you get the end of the year invite, you also get one additional thing for winning this entire event. Now, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you do get a custom token of your liking. Do you have any idea what you want that token to be?
I will have to think about that one.
All right. Good answer. Good answer.
That's a fair answer. Yeah.
Like a blood token, a treasure, something that's going to see a lot of play, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
No, something good. All right. Well, Daniel Weiser, thanks for talking with us. Congratulations on your day. Are you going to play tomorrow, or are you done for the weekend? Yeah.
I'm going to come back. Yeah.
All right.
That's the one that I was excited for. I wasn't excited about this. This was just to help the homies test, you know?
All right. Well, Daniel Weiser, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for playing. Thanks for winning. Good show. And we'll see you at the end of the year as well.
Great. Thanks again.
All right. That is going to wrap up the day here at Nerd Rage Gaming. It was a long day. I think we had a good time. Pioneer 10K. Hope everybody enjoyed watching. Devin, thanks for being here. You're playing RCQ tomorrow?
Yeah. Well, I was gonna mention, Joe, you say it was a long day, but it was probably a lot shorter than we expected it to be, right?
Yes, it was. I mean, yeah, the finals were shorter than we expected. We also had Mason Clark and Dominic Harvey taking over the first half of the day. So shout out to them for doing a good job on the first half. But yeah, so you're playing. Now we saw Blue Light Control Mirror in the finals, right? We saw Spirits in the top 4. We saw Bring to Light. We saw Creativity. And you're going to play what tomorrow?
Boros. Hey, we also saw Boros Convoke in the top 8. All right.
Yeah, we did. I know.
But to be fair, I'm not a big fan of the Blue White matchup, so hopefully I can dodge that tomorrow. But yeah, I've been getting a lot of people talking to me and sending me messages saying that they've crushed their RCQ. So hopefully I could take one down.
All right. Well, good luck with that. And maybe that's for Atlanta, right?
Yes.
All right. Atlanta. Well, I'm trying to pull that off too. I'm not qualified for Atlanta yet either. So maybe we'll get ourselves both in there. Either way, thanks for being here. Hope you had a good time, and we will see you next time. Meanwhile, for everyone else, Modern coverage starts tomorrow morning at 10 Central. It's a Modern 5K. I'm honestly not sure who's broadcasting the first half of the day, but Becky Bell and I will be here for the second half. So tune in at any point tomorrow, twitch.tv/NRG Series, and there'll be Modern action. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you tomorrow.